Farm workers are, on the lowest level, and farmers are also struggling to make a living, but we have an abundance of very cheap food. We come across people who are employees at farms where they're doing basically field farm work, but their paychecks are on salary. And so that's where we ask, how many hours are you working a week, and we make the math, and then we find out that they're, getting paid actually under the minimum wage. Usually somebody will come into the office for a different need. They don't necessarily come because they know that they're being robbed. They don't know that yet. So when they come and we go through the process of knowing about them, where they work, what kind of conditions they're under. Well, I work at a farm where there's, let's say, dairy farm with 400 cows, and there's only 2 people who do the field work. We begin to see that people are working 60, 70, 80 hours a week sometimes, and are basically on a $23,000, $27,000 salary.
And I think here in central Minnesota too, and especially in the more rural areas where you have these farmers, it's a lot easier to bring an undocumented worker in and offer them housing and employment. And when you have someone's housing and their means of providing for themselves, in your hands, what can they do? So I think there's a lot more happening in the shadows here in central Minnesota and rural Minnesota.
And sometimes they don't pay them for months. We've seen cases where payment is withheld for many different reasons, and that's also a way of keeping the labor with you. And you can't go anywhere. I mean, you can buy a car, you don't drive. Sometimes these farms are also very rural. So, the only day off that you have is Sunday between 3 and 5 p.m.
We had a dairy farm worker who contacted us and informed us that his employer wouldn't accept the time card for a 2-week period. And when the employee confronted this individual, the farm owner, he fired him. And him and his family lived on the farm. So this is not only, the wages that he was counting on, this is also where they lived. And he was forced off of the property.
There are no solid protections for labor. If you lose your job even for a week or 2, that means that you have to figure out what you're going to do. Your life changes completely. We continue to have a lot of undocumented workers in the main industries, which is agriculture, the ones that feed us. And so there is that lever for fear and retaliation. You can't say anything or do anything, because not only can you lose your job, but you could end up deported or now in jail. We only know the tip of the iceberg of maybe how many other cases and situations we can find, because it's very hard for people to come to find us, and then it's also for us to go and find people who are in actually these situations. There's definitely a lot of struggle, but within that, there's a lot of learning, and there's a lot of empowering in many different ways. I see a lot of opportunity for change. And we've been doing this through education, advocacy, and community organizing. And that there is more than one worker, and the situations are bigger than what we think. Then we try to do what we call our community organizing, and find more things in common, invite more people over, and explore the possibility of either going after the company or a section of the industry. People begin to feel empowered by their stories, make sure that they know that what you went through while it was a struggle, you actually gained so much more.